Snowflakes by Peter Cunningham. Luke died on a day that snow was forecast. I saw his death notice and at first almost did not recognize the name. We had lost touch. I had not even known he was ill. I couldn't go to his funeral since it was taking place at the same time as Molly's. I felt guilty about missing Luke's send-off, but Molly had been part of our family for most of her life and had looked after me as a child. Luke and I went back to the time when I first came up to Dublin. We drank in the same pub, next door to the bookies. Luke introduced me to the Yankee, a bet involving 6 horses, 6 doubles, 4 trebles and an accumulator. He seldom won. "But one day I'll clean them out," he often said, referring to the bookies. I discovered that he worked as a clerk in an office on the canal. He had a deadpan sense of humour, was unfailingly courteous, and liked his pints. Other than that, I knew little about him, except that, like myself, he came from down the country. He drove a Volkswagen Beetle, and gradually came to resemble the car, a smallish, somewhat hunched-over man with heavy-rimmed spectacles and a peering, curved face. One of the last times we had met, he had stayed overnight in my parents' house. That was a glorious summer weekend. We'd been to the races, where we had lost, and crawled home when the dew on the grass was good enough to drink. "We were robbed," Luke kept saying. "Robbed!" "We were stupid," I said. "We backed slow horses." "It's a conspiracy," he yelled, and rolled down the car window. "A conspiracy!" It felt good to be alive at that moment, in the early dawn, just the two of us on the earth, bird-song resounding, young. My parents were away. Hours later, when I awoke, Molly was bustling around. "You 2 lads better get up and wash yourselves when there's still hot water," she called up. I let Luke use the bathroom first. We were both destroyed. When we came downstairs, Molly was frying rashers. "Is it any wonder the country is the way it is?" she cried when she saw us. "Is this what they teach you above in the university?" "I don't go to university," Luke said, poker-faced, and gave me a wink. Molly was in her late 50s, with strong features, coal-black hair, and the most wonderful set of unblemished teeth that, when she smiled, lit up her face like a lighthouse on the peninsula that she came from in County Kerry. "Does your mother know you're gallivanting?" she demanded as she served him rashers. "My mother is dead," Luke said. "You've an answer for everything." After breakfast, we lay out in the sun. I could hear Molly's transistor radio, tuned to the lunchtime news. The Taoiseach was on a trade mission to Germany. The President had attended Mass in the Pro-Cathedral. That summer, I had a job in Dublin and was due in at 9 the next morning. "We should think of getting back," I said. "The man who made time made plenty of it," Luke mumbled. A lot of people thought Luke was gay. He'd never been known to take out a girl, but I'd never seen him show interest in men either, other than as drinking buddies. It seemed that Luke was absorbed mainly in lager and betting on horses. His social contacts were confined to the people he drank with in the pub. When he died from cancer, I heard that it had begun as an unnoticed melanoma on his back, something that might have been spotted in time by a partner. I went back to sleep, and an hour later came to, my hangover reduced to a simple headache. Luke wasn't there. As I approached the bay tree near the kitchen, I heard voices. Luke and Molly were sitting out, and to my surprise, topping and tailing green beans. "She must have been lovely," Molly was saying. Black hair and blue eyes, Luke said, like your own. I should have shown myself then, but I remained hidden behind the bay tree. And what happened at all, Luke? Luke sighed. My father, you know, he was a bit of a boyo. Molly made a sympathetic sound. Luke said, I'm sure she knew. She led a separate life, golf and bridge. He was on the rugby club committee, which meant he used to go away overnight to matches. We were the only ones in the town who didn't know. Although it was wrong for me to stay there, hidden like a spy, listening, I held my ground. One Sunday morning the guards came to the door, caps by their elbows. I was 12. My mother beginning to scream. I could hear Luke choke. They'd found him in a flat in Roscrea. Massive heart attack. Your poor mother. She never went to the golf club again, never played bridge. 18 months later, she was diagnosed with cancer. It's all right, Luke. He killed her. Ah, child. Molly had drawn up her chair next to his. As I crept away, he was sobbing in her arms. On our way back to Dublin, we stopped at a pub and joked about the day before and the horses we had backed. One day I'll clean them out, Luke said as the lager revived him. One day, if this goes on, we'll be in a pauper's grave, I remarked. Just remember, Luke said solemnly, that it's all a gigantic conspiracy. Soon afterwards, I met a girl and we began going out. Luke and I now only met occasionally, but the few times we did, after a few pints, I almost asked him about his mother. I was concerned for the vulnerable Luke who had briefly appeared that day, but who was also a deeper, more interesting person than the Luke of the pub. I never did ask in the end. I feared that if I brought it up he would realise I'd been eavesdropping. I let it go. Luke and I lost touch. When my parents died, Molly went into the Little Sisters. How's Luke? She asked one day. Luke? Your friend, the nice lad with the glasses. Oh, he's grand, he's fine, I said. Will you ask him to visit me? I will, but I think he's very busy. Molly shook her head, that was not yet entirely grey. I don't think he'll ever get over it, she said. And although I could have asked her what she meant, I didn't, because I already knew, and I didn't want her to know that. After Molly's funeral mass, we brought the coffin to the crematorium at Mount Jerome. As I walked in the avenue ahead of the hearse, the first flakes of snow were coming down. Up at the chapel, I saw people that I had not seen for years from the old pub, chatting and laughing in the way of people after funerals. I had not realised that Luke was being cremated there. I went over and we shook hands. It's a shame he never met anyone, a man I didn't know said. He deserved to meet someone nice. Later, when Molly's coffin had been dealt with, I made my way out of Mount Jerome. I don't know what the procedure is in crematoriums, whether they incinerate the dead one by one, or whether they wait and do them all later in a kind of job lot. That day it was difficult to tell, since the sky was dense with dancing snowflakes that could just as easily have been flakes of ash.